We are predicting the 2025 NFC West standings, and I am going to go first, starting with the worst, then working my way back up to first. And let me just say, I really like the offseason for a lot of these teams in the NFC West. I think there's a universe where any of these teams can sneak in as a potential 7 seed, and some of these teams even as a little bit better. But with that being said, the worst team in the NFC West, in my opinion, is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I think they'll go 7-10, but like I said, there's a universe where the Cardinals could sneak in as a 9-8 wild card here in the NFC because they've got a very easy schedule. We got Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray, in their second year together. It was a little bit bumpy in their first year, but they're going to be in their second year together. You bring in Trey McBride, or you have Trey McBride as well, who in my opinion is going to be the best tight end in football numbers wise this year. I expect Trey Benson to step up a little bit more in that running back room as well with James Conner in there. And then they made a bunch of additions to this defense, especially the defensive line in the offseason. You bring in Josh Sweat, you bring in Dalvin Tomlinson, you bring in Walter Nolan, you get Will Johnson, who looks incredible in the second round. You got him at an injury discount out of Michigan as well. However, I do not think the Cardinals truly have the talent to truly have what it takes to bring them over the top here in this NFC West. I like Jonathan Gannon as a head coach. He had that awkward kind of start to his tenure. He looked really awkward in some of his interviews, looked really awkward in Hard Knocks, but I think he's actually turned out to be a really solid head coach. However, I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. I don't know. I just don't think you're going to win much with Kyler Murray as your starting quarterback in the NFL. So to me, I think the Cardinals go 7-10 and finish last in this division, Sammy.
Yeah, you want to know something? A couple of weeks ago, I would have agreed, but I really kept thinking about it. And I'm about to shock a lot of people. I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to finish last in the NFC West. Ladies and gentlemen, I am looking at this roster right now. We have Jawan Jennings, who's fighting injury. Brandon Ayuk's going to be out. We are really uncertain at how well Christian McCaffrey is going to play, considering how his situation last year went. Then you look at the defense. Outside of Nick Bosa, I'm not confident in really anybody on this defense aside from Fred Warner. I understand they got Robert Saleh back, so immediately think, oh, great defense. I don't think Kyle Shanahan can save the fact that this team is constantly injured throughout the year. I think the talent, also the offensive line, just isn't necessarily good year after year. Kyle Shanahan said that he can coach around a bad offensive line. Not this year, buddy. Not this year. Not without the weapons that are there. Defensively, I think it's a step back. I don't think we're going to see a top 10 defense. I to be completely honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they go outside the top 15. This is how far I'm thinking the 49ers fall. I don't think Robert Saleh is going to be able to save this defense. I don't think Kyle Shanahan is going to be able to save this offense. I think right now, this is the first year in Kyle Shanahan's tenure where people genuinely, with authenticity, think, Kyle Shanahan, you, sir, are indeed on the hot seat. This is the first year that happens.
I love it. I love that take, Sammy, because I've been on the Kyle Shanahan criticism spectrum. Like I've been pretty far on, like, I criticize Kyle Shanahan a lot. It's more so for his playoff woes, his playoff failures, where he gets his team into big games, or he has a really talented team that gets into big games, and then they always flounder when they get to the Super Bowl. They flounder when they get to the NFC Championship game. So that's what I've been on Kyle Shanahan for. I think the Niners are going to finish third. I don't see them winning this division. I know some people think they're going to have a big bounce back and win this division. I'm with you, Sammy. I don't see that happening, but I do see them being more around 8-9, 9-8. I do see them still doing that because I believe in Kyle Shanahan as a regular season head coach. I do think he's going to be able to get this offense to a decent level. I don't know if it's going to be high end, but I think it's going to be somewhere around the maybe 10th to 15th, somewhere in that range as far as offenses go, just kind of like a league average offense. Because I think Brock Purdy's around that level of quarterback, anywhere from 10th to 15th. And then I think Ricky Pearsall as well is going to have a big year. I like Ricky Pearsall. Again, you can't really assume the health of Christian McCaffrey at this point in his career as well, because McCaffrey has kind of proven, hey, I'll either play a lot of games or I'm not going to play any games at all. So it's going to be a hard thing for the San Francisco 49ers. Like you mentioned, they're missing a lot of players from that team last season that also did not do well. So again, it's hard to kind of justify putting the Niners at the top of this division, but they do have the weakest schedule in the NFL according to these schedule metrics that are coming out. So that's a reason that you could justify the Niners being a little bit better, but I don't see them making the playoffs. I see them around 8-9, 9-8 maybe, but I think they're going to be third in this division, Sammy. I really do.
It's hard for me to put them last, but it's just the feeling that I get when I see, look, Brock Purdy's a fine QB, but I just think without the weapons, he sort of struggles. The offensive line is going to be rough. I don't think we're going to see a very high echelon year from Brock Purdy. And because of that, I think everybody's going to take a hit. Whereas the Cardinals, I understand the Cardinals haven't had this fantastic reputation necessarily of winning. They haven't really had this culture of winning for the last, I would say 5 years. Aside from a couple of seasons. I think Jonathan Gannon has done a great job reestablishing that culture. And while I don't think the defense is going to be as good, I think the offense, headlined by Kyler Murray, I know you don't really think that highly of Kyler Murray. I think he's going to have a solid year this year. And I think there's going to be a lot more progression from Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. I truly believe that the defense is going to take a couple steps up. And I think this team can go 8-9 or maybe even I wouldn't be surprised if they finish up maybe even over 500. I'm very optimistic for this Cardinals team this year. Second, this is now the question, okay? Because I have a strong, I don't know why, I have a strong feeling that we're going to agree, but I'm hoping we don't. So, do you have the Rams winning this division?
I do. I do have the Rams winning this division.
Damn it.
I thought about it. I thought about the Seahawks because I really, really like the Seattle Seahawks, but I had to go with the Rams. I did.
I don't blame you at all. I think the Seattle Seahawks, let's go ahead and talk about them. I mean, Sam Darnold is the new QB in town. Bringing in Cooper Kupp definitely helps. And look straight up, I think Mike Macdonald has a lot of new weapons to play with in the defensive side of the ball. I think that's the biggest thing. He brought in DeMarcus Lawrence. He's getting Boye Mafe, who really showed a bunch of great flashes, specifically the secondary. This is the part I'm excited about. The secondary, Kobe Bryant, Devon Witherspoon. I'm a big fan of Josh Jobe and Julian Love and Reek Woolen. I'm a big fan of this secondary. I think this secondary is going to be great. I was debating if this team was going to win 10 games. I'm not going to have them win 10 games only because I think the NFC North is just way too good. I think they're going to finish 9-8 and they're going to finish below 3 teams. I think I have 3 teams in the NFC North making the playoffs, and because of that, I think the Seahawks are the odd team out. So they're going to finish second in this division, 9-8 for sure, but I don't think they make the playoffs, unfortunately.
Yeah, Sammy, I agree with basically everything that you said there besides the final takeaway. I think they are going to win that extra game. I think they're going to go 10-7, and I do think they're going to sneak into the playoffs as a wild card because, like you mentioned, this defense, bro, like you look at the front line, they've got depth. They got Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence. You just talked about the secondary. Even the linebackers are good. Ernest Jones Jr. in that linebacker core as well. And then you look at the offense. If Kenneth Walker can stay healthy, you have a dynamic duo in that running back, in that backfield, with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Both of those backs fit Clint Kubiak's offensive system perfectly. Like you mentioned, JSN, Cooper Kupp, they're really high on Torrey Horton, the rookie out of Colorado State as well. And I think Sam Darnold, I don't know if he's better than Geno Smith, but he's a little bit younger. It's kind of like a lateral move. It's kind of like, they're similar tier quarterbacks. You bring in Sam Darnold. He's a little bit more mobile. He can make all the same kind of throws, but he might be a little bit more erratic than Geno Smith. But either way, I think they're going to have a lot of really, really good offensive games with Sam Darnold behind center. And then 2, you got Jalen Milroe in there as well to add that running dynamic where you can play a little bit of wildcat. You can run a little bit of a read option with Jalen Milroe at times as well because he's just a dynamic playmaker. I'm a little bit concerned about that offensive line as well. But again, you bring in Gray Zabel at left guard. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, that's a tackle duo that needs to have a little bit of a bounce back. But I really, really like this Seattle Seahawks team. This defense is going to carry them to a lot of wins this year. So I do think it's going to be 10-7 and making the playoffs, but I could not pick them over the number 1 team in this division. And Sammy, I'll let you talk about these LA Rams, man, because I think these guys are Super Bowl contenders this year.
Yeah, the Rams, they got so much better. And it's just the addition of Devontae Adams does it for me. And I understand, these are definitely his twilight years. but we have to understand the importance of having a secondary wide receiver to a Puka Nacua. And even last year with a banged up Cooper Kupp, this Rams team was able to be the biggest threat to an Eagles team that ended up mopping up the rest of the NFL. So the Rams, to me, are bona fide Super Bowl contenders, no question about it. Now, we did hear that Matthew Stafford was going through a bit of an injury. I do think he is going to come off to a bit of a slow start, but I don't think the offense is completely why I'm so bought in. I think the defense has a lot to do with why this team is so good. I think the pass rush of Byron Young and Jared Verse is hands down the most underrated pass rush in the entire NFL. How is nobody talking about? They have been the two of the best young pass rushers in the entire NFL, and nobody seems to be yeah, they're on the same team. Hello, they are. And I love Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk inside, and Poona Ford has just been a solid nose tackle for a very long time in this league. I think he's going to continue to do so. And this secondary, oh my goodness. I mean, Cam Kitchens had a fantastic rookie year. They brought in Cam Curl, Darius Williams, and Akello Witherspoon I'm big fans of. And they don't even have him starting the depth chart, but I'm a big Kobe Durant guy. I think he's a very underrated corner in this league. This Rams team has the opportunity to be the ones to dethrone the champs in the Philadelphia Eagles. They already almost did it. I think they got better this year, and I think this is the year that the Rams could potentially go back to the Super Bowl. They're going to do it first by winning the NFC West.
I'm nervous for our next episode, Sammy, based on how glowingly you just talked about how good the Rams are, because I have a feeling we might agree on some future predictions again. Because I really like like you mentioned, I really like this Rams team a lot. And I might be a little bit biased too, because they came and they worked out in my home/gym/work, and it was super badass, and they were all super cool. And I have a bunch of cool stories from that. So I might be a little bit biased as far as that goes. But you look up and down this roster, you like basically everything that you see. I am concerned with Matthew Stafford's back injury. That's something that does concern me. And again, if he gets hurt, you're not winning the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo or Stetson Bennett. It's just not happening. You got to have Matthew Stafford there, despite the genius of Sean McVay and the good parts about this roster and the good parts about this offense. You're just not winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy G and Stetson Bennett. It's just not happening. But then you look up and down the roster, Kyron Williams, that's your workhorse. You just paid him to be your workhorse, but you have two highly talented running backs behind him as well, and Blake Corum and Jarquez Hunter that could carry the load if Kyron Williams somehow went down. And then you mentioned it. You got Puka Nacua, you got Devontae Adams, you brought back Tutu Atwell to be that third wide receiver as well. That's a dynamic receiver core. Terrence Ferguson as well is going to be you can run two tight end sets with him and Tyler Higbee. Those are going to be some dynamic packages. And then you mentioned this defense, man. This defense is super, super underrated. Jared Verse has a really good argument to potentially win Defensive Player of the Year this year in the NFC. This is going to be a dangerous, dangerous team going forward. And like I mentioned, I am nervous about this next episode because I have a feeling that we might potentially agree on who we think is going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC.
So much research just to try not.
I'm going to try to find any other pick, bro. I really am. I'm going to try to find any other pick because we've agreed too much. We disagreed a little bit today. We disagreed some, but there was a whole hell of a lot of agreement in there too. But other than that, listen, man, this NFC West is going to be intriguing. Like we mentioned, all four of these teams have a shot to make the playoffs, and we'll see how it plays out here in 2025.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.